The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, if you could please call roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Here. Senator Goycochea.
Yes, sir.
Senator Daly.
Here.
Senator Krasner. Chair Flores.
Here, thank you. All members are present and we have a quorum. I'd like to very briefly, before we get into today's agenda, remind everybody that to please silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already. Say thank you to those of you following online in Las Vegas, and thank you for those of you who are present. As you all know, members are actively checking their computer, either because they're communicating with their team and or everything that's printed out is also in our screen. Please don't take that as a sign of disrespect if we are looking down and or actively taking some type of action on our laptop. I'd like to also remind folk to please make sure you check in with our committee staff, particularly those of you who intend to testify, so that they have your complete information. Everybody is welcome to submit any type of testimony in writing. That makes it a lot easier for purposes of minutes. So I'd like and encourage you to please do that. Also, I want to remind folk that every day's exhibits at the commencement of the meeting, you'll have an opportunity right by the door to grab those. Those of you following online or in Las Vegas, you'll have an opportunity to access those via your laptop. With that, for today, we have 3 items on the agenda. We have Senate Bill 25, Senate Bill 26, and Senate Bill 52. And I will also just let the committee members know that I believe we're going to be doing 2 committee bill introductions. Don't have them with me, but they're going to be delivered to me, and I'll explain that when we get to that point. But I just want to remind folk every single time you come up to please state your name clearly for the record, particularly those of you who will be speaking. Please state your name for the record after each question. And with that, we'll go ahead and open up the hearing on Senate Bill 25. Good afternoon and welcome. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Jack Robb, Director of Department of Administration, for the record. For Senate Bill 25, I'm going to turn it over to Division Administrator over Public Works, Kent Lefevre. I'm sorry about that, Kent. To go over 25, and then Kent will do 26, and then I'll do 52 when that time comes.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the Government Affairs Committee. My name is Kent Lefevre, the Administrator for State Public Works Division, and I'm here to present SB 25. Senate Bill SB 25 is a response to a 2020 executive audit entitled Department of Administration Public Works Division Long-Term Office Space Planning Mechanism. And that was dated in July 6th of 2020. Briefly, the audit considers how the executive branch and legislators make capital improvement decisions without the full context of the state's long-term office space needs, which often compete with more appealing projects. To better inform decision makers and formalize the consideration of the state's long-term office space and office space needs, the auditors recommended the following. Proposed legislation to implement and maintain a long-term statewide office needs assessment. Require agencies to biennially submit updated long-term facility needs and identify consolidation opportunities to reduce reliance on third-party leases for office space needs. Senate Bill 25 proposes legislation in compliance with the executive audit recommendation as follows. And I'm going to talk about this in reverse order because I think it makes more sense. So in Section 2 of the bill, it amends NRS 341-127 and requires the division and other state agencies to cooperate and the division implement and maintain a long-term office plan that addresses the future office space needs of state agencies. And then in Section 1 of the bill, it amends NRS 341-083, which is the statute that requires the board to submit CIP recommendations to the governor in October of even-numbered years. SB 25 adds a requirement that the board consider long-term office planning when making its recommendation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Members, any questions? Thank you. Vice Chair, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. My only question was, right now, does the division have any information as to how much space is rented from third parties versus how much is state-owned? And if not, could we get that at a later date? Thank you.
Kent LaFever for the record. You bet, I can answer that right now. Currently, the state leases roughly 700,000 square feet in northern Nevada and over 1 million square feet in southern Nevada.
May I have a brief follow-up, Chair?
Please.
Thank you. And with, in the next biennium, do you foresee the amount of rented space increasing, or do you think that we're going to hang steady at that level?
Through the chair, Jack Robb for the record to Senator Orenshaw. We're looking to right-size our office leases. He went over how many square feet we lease northern and southern. 1.2 million square feet of those leases are held by individuals or corporations that do not reside in the state of Nevada. That money leaves the state and never comes back. That is something that the department and the Division of Leasing Services is looking at closely to figure out how to get our employees into better locations and to state-owned office spaces so we don't lease these buildings going forward. If you look at a cost analysis of the square foot that we lease, in less than 8 years, we can own that building instead of leasing it. So we just continue to pay for some of these buildings. We lease them 30, 40 years. The taxpayers buy these buildings multiple times for the individuals that own them. If individuals can lease a building to the state, that increases the value of that building for sale because they know that the state is a long-term tenant and that is going to stay there. So we're going to try to change that model going forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for working on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I don't believe we have any additional questions. Thank you for that presentation. If we could have you sit back. And at this time, we'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 25. And we'll start with Carson City. Seeing none, those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 25 in Las Vegas. And seeing none there, BPS, do we have anybody on the line wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 25?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 25. We'll start it with Carson City. Seeing none, opposition to Senate Bill 25 in Las Vegas. Seeing none there, BPS, anybody on the lines?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
And lastly, we'll move on to Senate Bill 25, those wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, do we have anybody on the lines?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
It was obviously a very exciting bill, and everybody's still processing. With that, I'd like to invite back our presenters, should you have any closing remarks on Senate Bill 25.
Kent LaFever for the record, Administrator for Public Works. Thank you for your time in hearing this bill today, and we look forward to seeing it move forward.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 25. And next, we'll move on to Senate Bill 26, which revises provisions relating to public works. Whenever you're ready, please.
Kent LaFever for the record. Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the Government Affairs Committee. My name is Kent LaFever, and the Administrator for Public Works, here to present Senate Bill 26. SB 26 updates the change order limits for NRS 341. Chapter 341 of NRS governs the State Public Works Board, or Division, specifically NRS 341-145, which outlines the powers and duties of the administrator, including how and when the administrator, on behalf of the division, can change project scope and/or costs once the projects are approved by the legislature in the CIP. The revisions proposed apply when State Public Work wants to change the contract amount with the approved project budget because of unforeseen conditions or owner-directed changes. Currently, IFC must approve the change order if it exceeds 15% of the total contract price. Any change order where the awarded contract price is less than $50,000 and the change is more than $50,000, or in other words, we are allowed to change the contract double on contracts up to $50,000. The last time these numbers were adjusted were in 2007, Senate Bill 387, in which Senate Bill 387, the percentage was raised from 10 to 15%, and the amount was raised from $10,000 to $50,000. Now construction projects and the division's management request this as follows. In section 1 of in section 1 of the bill, NRS 341-145 1G2, keeping the 15% limit, but only on contracts that are more than $1 million. Next, adding NRS 341-145 1G3 to allow 20% change orders on contract amounts between $100,000 and $1 million. Finally, adding a new sentence under NRS 341-145 1G4, which raises the ceiling from $50,000 to $100,000, which would allow State Public Works to approve change orders without IFC approval where the total contract price is $100,000 and the proposed change does not exceed $100,000. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
And thank you for that presentation. I think we had at least one question. Senator Daly? No? Members, any questions? Seeing none, at this point I'd like to invite those wishing to come forward in support of Senate Bill 26. Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, I'd like to next invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 26. Carson City or Las Vegas? Oh, excuse me, BPS. Do we have anybody on the phones wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 26?
Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 26. Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, anyone on the lines wishing to testify in opposition?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. And lastly, anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 26, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, do we have anyone on the phone?
Chair, you have no callers at this time.
Perfect. Any closing remarks for Senate Bill 26? Please.
Kent Lefevre for the record. We thank you for your attention to this bill and look forward to see it moving forward.
And thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 26. And next, we'll move on to Senate Bill 52, which is why I think there's so much enthusiasm in this room. Whenever you're ready, please.
Jack Robb, Director, Department Administration, for the record. Thank you, Chair Flores, committee members. I apologize for having this bill in front of you today. Had I had my job earlier, it wouldn't be in front of you. I took my job in January, and this was set in motion at that point. I think you will hear from a lot of my friends in the audience as to why they do not want this bill, and this is not a bill that the agency supports at this time. So if it goes no further than today, that would be just fine with the agency.
Understood. Well, I think that's a presentation that everybody appreciates. You have found common ground. Well, I'm not going to force you to walk through a presentation that you're no longer interested in moving forward with. Is this correct?
Jack Robb, for the record, we're not in favor of moving forward with this at all.
Understood. Well then, because I've opened up the hearing, I just feel bad not giving so many human beings the opportunity to participate. I'm kidding. I am kidding. I'm kidding. Because the bill's being withdrawn, and that's on the record with you, rather than go through the procedural motions, I'm just going to withdraw opening that hearing at all. Is that okay? Can I do that, Mr. McDonald? Can I do that? So that we don't have to go through the motions of giving everybody, because out of transparency of the motion, if I open the hearing, then I would have to allow everybody to walk through the support, opposition, and neutral. But I don't want to force folk to do that if the bill's not going to move. So rather than do that, we're not going to open the hearing at all. So Senate Bill 52 will not have a hearing now. And should we have to schedule that for a later time, we'll do so. And I apologize to folk because I did not anticipate doing that. So with that, I'd like to now move on to those wishing, so we're good for now, thank you. I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in public comment. And I want to remind folk, those of you who are here for public comment and or following along, this is not an open mic. Please focus on things that fall within the general purview of this committee. Public comment either in Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, do we have anybody wishing to join us for public comment over the phones?
Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Understood. Thank you. Just to give everybody some direction, we will be again meeting on Wednesday. Please give yourself an opportunity to visit the agenda for Wednesday. And I anticipate, again, not meeting on Friday. That allows you an opportunity to schedule accordingly with your families or whatever else you may have. We will not be meeting this Friday, but we will be meeting on Wednesday. And with that, thank you all for a very quick, brief meeting. This meeting is adjourned.